Welcome to Infinite Heart Stories, where we explore the deepest journeys of the human soul and the lessons that transform us. This is the story of David, a man who had to lose everything before he could understand the true power of discipline. Our story begins decades ago on a humble farm, where the silence of the morning was broken only by the wind. Young David loved the warmth of his blanket, dreaming of a life where he could sleep until the sun was high. But his father had different plans, waking him up promptly at 5 in the morning every single day without a fail. David hated this routine, dragging his heavy feet across the wooden floor, wondering why his life had to be so hard. It did not matter if it was raining or freezing cold. His father marched forward, expecting David to follow right behind. To young David, his father seemed cruel and unfeeling, a man who cared more about the crops than his own son. He would cry silently in the rain, feeling trapped in a life of endless labor that he did not choose himself. Years went by on that farm, and with every early morning, David vowed that one day he would escape this misery. He promised himself a life of comfort and ease, far away from the mud, the cold, and the strict 5 a.m. alarm. Finally, the day came when David packed his bags and left, seeking the bright lights and the freedom of the city. The city was everything he imagined, full of energy and promise, a place where he believed success would come very easily. He indulged in the freedom he craved, sleeping late every day, believing that rest was the ultimate reward for his childhood. But without his father's voice, David lacked direction, often procrastinating on important tasks and choosing pleasure over his necessary work duties. He arrived late, missed deadlines, and made excuses, thinking that talent alone would be enough to carry him to success. Nights were spent partying and spending money he did not have, while his career slowly began to crumble beneath his feet. Inevitably, the failures began to pile up. He lost job after job because he could not maintain a consistent effort. He blamed his bosses, the economy, and bad luck, never realizing that the problem was staring at him in the mirror. Years slipped away in a blur of mediocrity, and David found himself broke, alone, and far from the dreams he had. He tried to start over many times, but the moment things got difficult, he would quit and look for an escape. He had become a master of starting things, but a failure at finishing them, lacking the grit to push through pain. One evening, as a heavy storm battered his window, David hit rock bottom, feeling the weight of his wasted potential. Looking at the rain, a vivid memory from his childhood surfaced, a specific moment he had not thought of in years. He remembered asking his father why they had to work in such terrible weather, why they could not just stay inside. His father had looked at him and simply said, "Because the rice does not care about the weather. It needs care. The crops do not stop growing because it is raining, and we cannot stop working just because we do not feel like it." David finally understood that his father was not teaching him farming. He was teaching him how to survive and build character. Discipline is not about punishment. It is the ability to do what needs to be done, regardless of your emotional state. He realized he had been a slave to his feelings, working only when motivated and stopping whenever things became uncomfortable. That night, David made a pact with himself to undergo a transformation, a 90-day challenge to rebuild his entire life. The next morning, the alarm rang at 5. It was dark and cold, but this time, David did not hit snooze. He laced up his shoes and stepped out into the darkness, channeling the spirit of his father in the rice fields. His body screamed for him to stop, to go back to bed, but he kept running, one step after another. He learned that consistency is far more important than intensity. It is about showing up every day, no matter what happens. Days turned into weeks. The excitement faded and the boredom set in. But David kept going, fueled by his new discipline. He said no to distractions and cheap pleasures, understanding that short-term sacrifice is the only path to long-term gain. There were moments of doubt and exhaustion, but he remembered that the rice does not care if the farmer is tired. Slowly, his environment changed to reflect his mind. Order replaced chaos, and clear goals replaced his vague and empty dreams. He started a small business, applying the same relentless work ethic to his clients that his father applied to the land. When problems arose, he did not panic or quit. He solved them with patience, knowing that challenges are part of growth. The 90 days turned into a year, and the discipline that once felt like a burden became his greatest ally. He built his enterprise brick by brick, waking up at 5 every morning to outwork his competition and his former self. He became a leader not by demanding authority, but by setting an example of unwavering dedication and hard work every day. Financial freedom followed, but money was not the prize. The prize was the person he had become in the process. Years later, David drove back to the farm, the place he once desperately wanted to escape, with a heart full of gratitude. He found his father resting under a tree, his hands rough and worn from a lifetime of tending to the earth. They sat together in silence, and David finally thanked him for the lesson that had saved his life from ruin. He realized the motivation is like the weather. It is sunny one day and stormy the next, completely unreliable and fleeting. But discipline is your ability to perform regardless of the weather. It is the internal force that overrides external conditions. Success is not an accident. It is the result of showing up when you are tired, uninspired, and wanting to quit. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build confidence. Every time you break one, you weaken your own spirit. The 5 a.m. alarm is not just a noise. It is a daily question asking you how bad you want it. David now teaches others that you cannot control the economy or the world, but you can always control your effort. He tells them that the secret to freedom is actually routine. Structure creates the space for true creativity and wealth. His life is no longer a series of chaotic reactions. It is a masterpiece painted with the brush of daily discipline. Time is the only resource we cannot get back. Do not waste it waiting for the perfect moment to start working. Be like the tree that is rooted deep in the ground. When the winds of life blow, you will not fall. Look at yourself in the mirror today. Are you waiting for motivation, or are you ready to cultivate your own discipline? This story is not just about David. It is about you and the potential that is sleeping inside you right now. It only takes one decision to change everything. One morning where you decide that your dreams are worth the struggle. Remember that discipline is simply choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Choose what you want most. As the sun rises on a new day, you have a blank page. Will you fill it with excuses or action? The path is not easy, and it is not meant to be. The struggle is what makes the success so sweet. Step out of your comfort zone. Embrace the cold, the rain, and the early mornings. That is where champions are made. Just like the rice in the field, your efforts will eventually bear fruit if you refuse to give up on them. Build your reputation on reliability. Let the world know that when you say you will do something, it gets done. Discipline also means knowing when to rest and recharge, so you can return to your battles with renewed energy. Never forget where you came from, or the lessons taught by those who walked the path before you were born. Now, when David sees the rain, he does not see gloom. He sees an opportunity to grow while others seek shelter. Your life is a mountain waiting to be climbed. Do not let the fear of the ascent keep you at the bottom. Work hard in silence and let your success make the noise. Your results will speak louder than any words ever could. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step and continues with the discipline to take the next one. David found his freedom not by escaping work, but by embracing the discipline that allowed him to master his destiny. Thank you for watching Infinite Heart Stories. If this inspired you, please share it. Remember, discipline is the bridge to dreams.